This is Everybody Love Dies. Welcome to our mental essays number 3, titled Why Captain America is Not Racist. You might want a little bit of background on this because I'm sure some of you are wondering what prompted this particular mental essay. And a couple different things. Number one, a lot of people online seem to be under the impression when they first saw the Avengers movie, and by the way, I'll be trying to make clear when I'm talking about MCU versus 616, though sometimes I'll get a little bit muddled, but I'll try and make sure I'm clear about that. Some people thought when they saw the Avengers movie that when Steve handed Nick Fury $10 on the helicarrier, it was because he was tipping him because he's black. It was obviously because they made the bet, right? We all know that. He said, I bet I can show you something that'll surprise you. Cap was like, bet you can't. And they were on the helicarrier and handed him $10 because he showed him something that surprised him. Okay, it wasn't because Cap was being super racist and tipping the black man. But this prompted a whole bunch of discussion onto whether or not Cap would have like 1940s kind of racially insensitive sensibilities. And my gut reaction was, what's wrong with you people? Of course he doesn't, it's Cap. But then I was like, okay, well, I kind of understand where people who aren't necessarily into the comic books are getting this from. They're just thinking, well, 1940s, who knows. So let me take my time to explain at least 4 points why he's not racist. All right. Number one, just Captain America's character. Let's talk about this for a second. He was the small kid from Brooklyn, tiny guy, always judged on his outward appearance, always was picked on because of it, that whole thing. The whole kind of point of Cap is that he doesn't judge books by their covers, right? Because that's what happened to him over and over and over again. The army rejected him. They weren't going to let him prove his mettle. He knew that he had all this goodness inside of him, and blah, 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 blah. So he doesn't judge others by their external character. He judges them, or by their external appearance. He judges them by their character, by their internal goodness and all this stuff, by the actions that they commit. Okay? This is kind of like the foundation of Captain America. That's one of the things that makes him so good, is that he was the little guy, he was the guy that was judged by the appearance, and so he knows not to be that anymore. Or rather, not to be that ever, at all. Number 2, Howling Commandos. Okay, and here's where I'll try and make the distinction between 616 and MCU clear. In MCU, Cap commands the Howling Commandos. In 616, he fights alongside of them, and they're Nick Fury's, to my understanding. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. So they're Nick Fury's Howling Commandos in the 616, but either way, he's fought with them and beside them in both universes, and in both universes, they're kind of like your Captain Planet, racially diverse hodgepodge of all of the different nationalities and stuff, right? In the 616 universe, we've got the first Jewish character in comic books ever, which was a big deal back then, Izzy Cohen. I'm getting these names from Wikipedia, by the way. Correct me if I'm wrong. I did not go back and buy, like, 1963 Nick Fury and Howling Commandos issues to bone up on this, so. Dino Manelli, German-Italian, and black guy, Gabriel Jones. Okay, we already had Black Panther in the comic book history by then, but he was from African, right, like from Wakanda. And so Gabriel Jones was kind of your first, like, main character who was an African-American, right, from America. And these were guys who fought alongside Cap or were commanded by Cap, depending on which universe you're in, right? Cap had no problems with these people. Again, because Cap doesn't judge people by their external appearance, because he knows how awful that is. That is Cap's character. That's kind of a huge point of it. Alright. Number 3, the Falcon. Oh my gosh, have none of you heard of the Falcon? Sam Wilson. Falcon. Black guy. Cap's partner. For like a decade. Cap and the Falcon was the name of the title that they were together in. Yeah, and again, all these are kind of coming from like the blaxploitation era of comic books, but it doesn't change the fact that these are characters who were created and have now developed to the point of being like real, very well-rounded characters and everything in the 616 universe, and that Cap did not have a problem with. This is one of his like trusted buddies. Like, now that Bucky's dead, he's got Sam, right? Besides Iron Man, which, you know, Iron Man and Cap have this whole thing going on with each other. But besides Tony and Cap, it's Sam and Cap. Up until Bucky came back a few years ago with the whole Winter Soldier line, it was Sam and Cap. They hung out together. They did all their stuff together. They were partners. They were heroes together. They were Cap and the Falcon. So, again, not a problem with the racism thing. Finally, this is a little bit of a historical note. And a lot of this is taken from my knowledge of American history, which was given to me by public school. So, take that with a grain of salt. But, to my understanding, a lot of the impetus for the civil rights movement starting in the 1950s was because of the integration of the armed services. The 1950s wasn't just a random decade that basically every repressed population said, we're fed up with it, give us rights. The 1950s started the civil rights movements because people were coming back, white people were coming back from World War II and saying, hey, listen, we served alongside black guys, we served alongside all these different ethnicities, Indians, whatever. And, you know, they were dying for us, we were dying for them, like, we were all the same out there in the trenches. And this guy saved my ass, I saved his ass. This isn't cool, how we're treating them. Now, please don't take this as me saying white people are responsible for the civil rights movement. That's not what I'm saying. But one of the driving forces behind it happening when it did was because of the integration of the armed services in the 1940s. Now, I don't know all the specifics or which ones were integrated or any of that stuff, but to my understanding, that is something that was a big deal. Guess when Cap was serving in the military? 1940s. So even if you ignore everything else about Cap's character and all the black guys that he's hung out with and had no problem with, even so, as a veteran of World War II, this sort of, we're kind of getting okay with the different races sort of thing, was a mentality that would have been expected of him. Would he have been, like, totally on board everything? No. He would have still had some issues he had to work out and figure out. But he certainly would not have been a racist, like a hardcore. I mean, I guess he could have been. But this is Cap. This is Cap we're talking about. He's like the best of the best. He's, you know, Tony told him during Civil War, the reason that you're not on my side with this whole Superior Registration Act is because you don't make mistakes. You're never bad. You're never not good. And that's who Cap is. He's never not the good guy. That's his whole character. So no. Cap was not handing Nick Fury $10 because he thought he was a servant and wanted to hand him $10. That was not the case. So that's my rant on why Cap is not a racist. Mental essay number 3. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Everybody I Love Dies. If you hated it and hate me and think I'm wrong or think that I'm a jerk, leave it in the comments and I will ignore it. Cheers.